Shalom, first and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash, double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone who are teaching the truth and sincerity, and a shout out to Yakim that's out there on four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash, Bracha Dum. So, here we are. Again, the famine of the word has come as there's new limitations, but there is this extra feature called the premiere. For those of you that do not have 1,000 subscribers, you can use the premiere button, pick a time that you want your video to go up. Of course, this would be a pre-recorded video, a video you've already recorded, say that you're out and about. But you can pick a certain destined time that you want to upload it and put it in the premiere, and people can grasp onto it, and then they can actually, that's close to live, because a lot of other channels have done this. The premiere thing came out a few months ago. Actually, back in December, I remember that because I had a beta run with it. And so what I was doing is I was re-uploading a lot of brothers' videos. Hey, this sounded like a pretty good concept, right? So I had actually scheduled them to where it was like as if it was a normal TV channel. You get done with one video, then you got another one for 2.5 hours, and you could schedule out the whole day just forwarding videos alone. So I had done that for a little while until, of course, like everything else, you don't get credit for just being a sideline commentator. So, to put it in other terms, resharing videos is fine and all, but you don't want to get too caught up in only doing that. While I do like to take a look at a lot of news clips and then relate that back to the scriptures and bring that out, and just the fact that, we're seeing all these things take place. So I like to do that a lot with the Screencast-O-Matic, But like everything else, though, the idea is to go out there and teach. And for a lot of us, man, we do videos in cars and other places in between work. So how do you do that? Well, you can just go ahead and record the video. You won't be able to do it live if you're under 1,000 subscribers. And then you select Premiere to go out at a certain date and time. Like if you just recorded a video, but you wanted to get it out there, but you want more people to take a look at it and to view it and it also opens up the live chat, by the way, if you put it in Premiere. So it does open up the live chat, and they can commentate back and forth, So there is Premiere, but that's for right now. We know that the famine of the word is coming, and we know that eventually, they'll do something with that, but that's an extra tip, that I've learned, is the newer Premiere thing. Like I said, it's only been out since like about December. That's another way of getting videos out there, because, of course, there is the minimum of doing at least 3 videos a week, 10 minutes or more, but you want to do more than just the bare minimum, and you want your videos to get out there, but trying to get 1,000 subscribers, especially if you're in a smaller area, you're not as well known. The idea, though, is to get it out there. So in the meantime, until you do get your 1,000 subscribers, that's another technique used, But, other things happening with the famine of the word. A funny thing, if you do watch wrestling on a side note, recently this other YouTube channel, which critically looks at stuff, did a segment on Vince McMahon, and they got a copyright strike, even though there was no copyrighted material. And these were published lawsuits. It was a published lawsuits against Vince McMahon for sexual harassment. As you know, Vince McMahon is very good friends with Donald J. Trump, and has even featured him in wrestling quite a few times. And Linda McMahon is a part of the cabinet. And also WWE goes and does the Saudi Arabia show, So, on a side note, though, you can't even be critical of them and do videos, Like if you were to title your video something about Vince McMahon or about WWE, they're going to quietly hush that up, kind of like they're trying to hush us up. So that's the only reason for even mentioning that. On a side note, there are bread and circuses, and yes, I mean, we, do things on the side. But the most important thing, though, is that this kingdom is crumbling, and the place of the Valley of Yehoshaphat is happening now, a newer hotbed, but actually it's an older one. Is Venezuela is a part of our northern kingdom. We know that's a tribe of Asher. These are the 2/3 that don't want to repent, that still want to worship Caesar Borgia, though we go out there and teach. These are just, and they're into more than just that, witchcraft and all these other demonic religions, but Christianity being at the peak of it, Catholicism, and the worship of the Day of the Dead, all kinds of, idolatry. Let's just say it, idolatry is why their kingdom is being judged. But at the same time, though, we also know that Venezuela has resources. As you know, the resources are the petrodollar. So, last week, Bashar al-Assad had met with the ambassador from Venezuela. And of course, Syria supports them because they have a common enemy. That's what's happening, though, is that all the nations are gathered together and realizing that they have a common enemy. Esau, Edom. And part of Esau, Edom is defending these countries that want to take a proverb against the whore Babylon the Great. They're uniting with Russia. Including the EU and the UN NATO. Many of them still want to trade with Iran, who is Donald J. Trump or U.S. to interfere in the trade, you see. So they're beginning to hate the whore. They're also hating the whore because of the refugee crisis, which was caused by these wars. Iraq, Syria, Libya, all these refugees from those places are ended up in Europe, and so that's destroying their economy and destroying, everything else, and it's caused by the whore and their fucking wars. So, with all that going on, they're even taking a proverb against Babylon the Great. And when the time comes for them to shoot their missiles, they will bend their bow. And even the weaker countries are not so weak anymore. Persia recently just said that the U.S. must leave Iraq, and is in support of Iraq. Because they do have a stable government, but the only one destabilizing their government is the U.S. presidents there. And so they've been for a while, but, like everything else, the U.S. just thinks it can stay wherever it's not invited. That's why they still have the SDF in Syria. Because the SDF is nothing more than the U.S., trying to say that, we got to protect Syria when they're not protecting Syria. They're protecting their common interest, which is them ports, so they can have their pipeline for the greater Israel, because we know Donald J. Trump just gave away the Golan Heights. So either way, though, the Valley of Yehoshaphat is what's going on. So 2nd Ezra chapter 15 talked a lot about this. I'm going to start in verse 28. Of course, this is not the King James version, because I don't have a King James version of the Apocrypha. I'll eventually have me one, but for right now, this is, I believe, America's Standard Version. So it's going to sound worded a little differently, but the words are still there. Verse 28, 2nd Ezra chapter 15. What a terrifying sight appearing from the east. The nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots from the day that they set out. Their hissing shall spread over the earth, so that all who hear them would fear and tremble. And that's just it. Most of these wars, they fly sorties out of Saudi Arabia. That's how Iraq was captured to begin with. All these attacks, came from that area. So we know about the secret bases in Saudi Arabia. And it's no secret that that's why the U.S. defends Saudi Arabia. Also the Carons, raging forest, with great power they shall come up and engage them in battle. And with their tusks they shall devastate a portion of the land of the Assyrians with their teeth. Well, the Assyrian land, that's talking about Iraq and Syria. So you see that this has already played its part right now. And then the dragons, remember their origin, shall become still stronger. And if they combine in great power and turn to pursue them, then they shall be disorganized and silenced by their power, and shall turn and flee. And from the land of the Assyrians, an enemy in ambush shall attack them and destroy one of them, and fear and trembling shall come upon their army, and their indecision upon their kings. So We know that America, Babylon the Great, is very much involved with this, been involved with it, but the U.S. has no jurisdiction to give the Golan Heights to the Amalekites. Nonetheless, though, this is also making the nations very angry with the whore. See the clouds from the east and from the north to the south. Their appearance is exceedingly threatening, full of wrath and storm. They shall clash against one another, and shall pour out a heavy tempest on the earth, and their own tempest, and there shall be blood from the sword as high as a horse's belly, and a man's thigh, and a camel's hock. So what's that talking about? What could create such a devastation? That's when they shoot their missiles at this place, and pretty much, the rest of the scriptures in Revelation chapter 18. And there shall be fear and great trembling on the earth. Those who see that wrath shall be horror-stricken, and they shall be seized with trembling. Yeah, because of the fact that they've never seen devastation like that. And when John wrote Revelations, he had seen it because we realize that there's glass at the bottom of the chariots, so you're looking at the world from up there, in the heavens, and you're seeing this destruction becoming a lake of fire. And this is about to happen. So, like everything else, though, we are taking a good look at everything, but I just kind of, wanted to take a look at the things that are going on and how this relates, and bring out some scriptures, and mention, though, that if you use Premiere, it's close to a live video, especially if you're, not as, don't have that many subscribers, but you still want to give people a chance to comment on your videos and chat with one another. So I hope this has been edifying, and like everything else, though, keep prophesying until the end. For that, I want to say, Barak Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakal Kadash, Barak Thumb. Death to America, and death to you 2/3.